This is for you, Aunt Trudy. She was a lover of a collection of shot glasses. Rest in peace. Here's the Vatican Church. Of course, we have shot glasses. Hadrian, Emperor Hadrian's tomb is right there. Castle San Angelo. Augustus's tomb is down there. St. Peter's Basilica is right there. Alright, but after Constantine and some councils, like the Council of Nicaea and another emperor in the late 300s made Christianity, Roman Catholicism, the state religion. So Alaric and his massive army stormed the city of Rome in 410 AD, asking to be accepted as citizens. The proud Romans denied them, and they invaded. 40,000 barbarian Gothics stormed Rome. Goths, though, were Arian Christians, which was a different sect of early Christianity called Arianism. The people here, though, were not. After the councils, they decided what kind of Christianity they were. I'm not an expert on this, so let's just leave it at that. All right. So the invading Goths respected the Christian sites. They didn't loot or burn any of the nice churches like St. Peter's Basilica, the old one, that's the newer one. And they respected all the Christian sites. The Goths. And then another group, the Vandals. That's why we have the word vandalism. The Vandals came into Rome in 455 AD and also sacked the city. So there was a lot of terrible stuff going on in the 400s. They had no control over the city, basically, or its security. Lastly, though, Rome finally officially fell. 475 AD, a man named Odoacer took the city and all of Italy. The Eternal City fell into barbarian hands. So by 536 AD, Rome and all of Italy, for all this time, was ruled by a set of different barbarian kings for decades. The Eastern Empire, though, was still thriving from Constantinople, kind of, and an emperor, Justinian the Great, he wanted to recapture the lost territories of the Roman Empire. So he raised the last probably excellent legions ever, and he fought on behalf of the Pope there, Papa, in the 500s, and they let the Christianity still exist, the barbarians and the Pope and everything. But the Pope had a falling out, though, with Justinian's authority, and the Pope was banished outside of Rome when Justinian came in. The Byzantine forces finally sacked Rome. So Byzantines retook Rome, and it was a terrible battle at the Aurelian walls. They had to force their way in, and the people of Rome actually really suffered during this time. They were really starving, and no food was coming in, and they were used to their barbarian kings, and they were kind of happy with it. They're just living life, trying to survive, intermingling. It was over 100 years, so it was a lot of assimilation with the new culture that was here, the Germanic people. So this stressed the economy, and disease, starvation, and lots of destruction in the city happened with this. The population plummeted of Rome. The once grand city began to crumble, and its ancient, beautiful buildings were relics to a lost time. Oh, it's tragic. The Byzantines held on to the old city for a while, but most people would rather love the Pope over the Eastern Emperor from Byzantium. Lombards were the next people that came in, more Germanic people, and most of the imperial forces and people abandoned the city. They went back to the Eastern Empire. Too dangerous here. But although the city, though, remained in Byzantine control, it started to be run by the Pope for centuries after this. The Pope right there, Vatican City. The Pope made an agreement with Constantinople, with the Franks, and with the Lombards. So the city king was now the head of the church, the Pope, 500s AD. Alright, so 580 to 590s, the Lombards made a deal with the Catholic Church, and Pope Gregory was given a kingship of sorts of Rome, using his wealth to feed the city and revitalize it to an extent. He was really rich, Pope Gregory, in the late 500s. Alright, now we're going into the 600s AD. The first time that the establishment of the Pope was as powerful as it remained throughout 600 AD. Okay. He was the first Pope to send missions as far off lands like England and Syria and all kinds of places. Maybe not Syria. That was earlier. And tons of people started becoming Christian and Catholic in lands where they were pagans for millennia. Rome became the Christian capital of the world, and leaders from all over Europe came to it. Right there. There were churches scattered all over the place and built with relics and different things. It became a pilgrimage site for many things, like the grill St. Lawrence was grilled on. He was a martyr, and pieces of the true cross and the steps of Pontius Pilate's palace was over here. All these super holy Catholic and Christian relics were stored in the city. Pilgrims came from all over Europe and leading the Pope to the status it is to this day. Gregory died in early 600s AD, and the city still enjoyed a new revitalization as a holy Christian city. #1 in the world. To secure the city, the Pope began making a deal with the Franks, and they were granted large tracts of Italy. 774 AD, King Charlemagne of the Franks, conquered the Lombard kingdom of Italy that existed for a long time. But a new threat was on the rise: Islam. Muslims began conquering many lands, including Jerusalem, and they thought Rome was going to be next. So in 800 AD, right there, the king of the Franks, Charlemagne the Great, came to Rome and made an alliance with the Pope, being anointed the Holy Roman Emperor. Holy Roman Empire was supposed to be like a revitalization of the empire. It had all these lands of France and Germany and Poland and different areas all scattered about. But it wasn't really an empire. It was a bunch of duchies and little kingdoms. And at first, though, it was pretty strong with Charlemagne. There was places all over the place that were affiliated with this, Christian cities. The Pope had a big role in the Holy Roman Empire with the King Charlemagne the Great. So it never quite became an empire, though. And the city, after Charlemagne and different kings following that, kind of was abandoned. Okay, so here we are at the walls and the gates of the Vatican, which stretch all around the city. They're really high and heavy, actually, in some areas. Not right here, but let's talk about why these were built. So the Vatican started being very popular, the pilgrims and everything. But there was another power close by on the rise, the Caliphate of Islam. So Rome saw them taking a little bit of places nearby, Spain, Sicily, North Africa, North African raiders, pirates, a lot of them, Berbers, a coalition force, Arabs. They were Muslim, but that doesn't define them. A lot of people call them Saracens. And people that were in North Africa sailed up here to Rome, and they sacked Vatican. Oh! They sacked the Vatican. You never know what's going to happen when you're filming. Rome, though, in its ancient Aurelian walls, held out against the invaders. but the Vatican is outside of those walls, and that's before these walls were built. So this is 846 AD, and it was the first and only time ever the old St. Peter's Basilica was damaged. They sacked it, they took a bunch of gold and stuff out of it. It was a terrible day for this city, the Vatican City. So after that, 852, the Pope ordered these walls to be built to protect the holy site and protect its inhabitants and pilgrims from something like that ever happening again. The walls were improved over the centuries, and the popes usually stayed in a place nearby at all times. The walls I was talking about, here's a better view of the Vatican walls from that gate I was standing out telling you about the story that after the 800s, after the invasion of the Vatican, these walls were built and improved on many times over the years, like Gregory, Roman numeral, Gregory the, I think 16th, that says. Pope, his name is up there, and you can see the papal symbol, the Pope's hat with the cross, key, and it's pretty cool. So this is the Vatican right here, and the whole thing is walled around except for certain access points, and yeah, built after the 800s.
Excuse me. Remember that the Vatican is not just these walls.
Oh yes, good point. We learned that the Vatican owns different little pockets of land around Rome still. Certain churches, like this church we went to, that has these steps of Pontius Pilate's palace brought here by Constantine's mother, Helena. She went to Jerusalem and got a bunch of artifacts, pieces of the true cross, the nails that Jesus, all this stuff. She brought it back to Rome. It's still here in a lot of different places. We saw it. It was really interesting. And you have to climb up your knees on this church. The Vatican owns it. It really, look at those hurt knees. It really, out of respect for Jesus, because Jesus walked up those to learn his fate of being executed. So, out of respect for Jesus, you go up on your knees. Oh, and it really hurt, man. But just think about, being executed and all the pain Jesus was going through, and other people. It's nothing. So it's kind of like a toughening moment of your faith, I would say. Something like that. A lot of people do it. And you say a prayer on each step as you go up. The story of Jesus' execution. It's really interesting. So the Vatican owns that too, and a bunch of other stuff. This is really interesting. This is a gate that's no longer used of the Vatican City. So these are the walls here of the smallest country in the world, the seat of the Catholic Church, and there's the symbol, the Pope up there that you see really in churches all over the place. Ireland, Poland. I've seen that hat. It means like the Pope, and coat of arms, I think. Anyways, these walls, I don't think all of it's original, but they were built in the 800s. It goes all around the tiniest country in the world, a little city-state. Pretty cool. All right, one more spot on the wall. This is a cool spot. It's where the now Museum of the Vatican entrance is. Super awesome museum. We'll go around in this video a little bit. But this shows the gate, one of the gates, entrances, and the walls. Was the apartments at first, and Vatican City, the smallest country. Well, let's fast forward from the 800s to 1277. A passageway was built linking the palace to the Castillo St. Angelo, where the Pope could escape if anything went happen. And then Rome started getting a little sketchy. And it really did when the kings of France, Avignon, convinced the Pope, or first they had a Pope elected that they wanted, and then they convinced the Pope to abandon the Vatican City. This was like a ghost town. And the Pope moved to Avignon, France. the city, Vatican City, fell into disrepair. But a woman, I forget her exact name right now, she became a saint, convinced by writing him and visiting him in France, the Pope, to come back. I think it was another Pope by that time. A lot of years went by, several decades. And he came back in glorious fashion, I believe, through this gate and reestablished the papacy here where it's been to this day, from 1377. All right, let's go into some more of the history of the papacy when the Renaissance starts.